here because something inside you crossed a threshold long before your mind realized it. Your awakening did not happen slowly or accidentally. It rose like a quiet wave inside your consciousness, pulling you out of the old patterns of your life and into a space where you could finally feel the subtle movements of the universe. You did not wake up early. You woke up right on time. The universe needed you aware before the transition, not after it and not during it.
You are here because something inside you crossed a threshold long before your mind realized it. Your awakening did not happen slowly or accidentally. It rose like a quiet wave inside your consciousness, pulling you out of the old patterns of your life and into a space where you could finally feel the subtle movements of the universe. You did not wake up early. You woke up right on time. The universe needed you aware before the transition, not after it and not during it. It needed you conscious in the exact moment when the old energetic structure of your reality began to loosen. Your awakening was a response to a deeper call vibrating beneath the surface of everything you once believed was solid. You may not have understood it at the time. It may have felt like confusion, emptiness, a sense that something was wrong or missing, a sudden desire to question everything you had built your life around. But what you experienced was not collapse. It was the unlocking of a frequency that had been waiting for your awareness. The universe did not wake you up because you needed to escape something. It woke you up because you were needed as a stabilizing point for what is coming next. There are moments in the collective field where shifts become inevitable, and during those moments, certain individuals begin awakening earlier than the rest. Not to lead, not to preach, not to fix anything, but to hold clarity while the old world dissolves. You are one of those individuals. You were pulled out of the old illusions, not because you were suffering more than others, but because your energy was capable of rising sooner. The universe needed you awake before the transition, so that you could recognize the signs when others begin to feel lost. You are not here to save anyone. You are here so that when the field shifts, you will not be destabilized. You will not fear the changes that others will interpret as chaos. You will not mistake the unraveling for danger. You will understand what is happening because you began living the transition long before it reached the physical world. You have already touched the new frequency with your inner senses, even if you cannot explain it. You have already felt the quiet separation from your old identity and the subtle pull of something higher. And now that this awakening has anchored inside you, the universe can begin the next phase. The transition is not an event. It is an unfolding. And your consciousness being awake at this stage is proof that you were always meant to stand at the threshold before the rest of the collective begins to stir. Your awakening is not premature. It is preparation. You are positioned exactly where you need to be. As you awakened ahead of the transition, your inner world began shifting in ways that felt unexplainable. You may have noticed a growing sense of detachment from the things that once defined you. People who felt central to your journey began to feel distant. Environments you tolerated with ease started to feel heavy. Beliefs you held for years suddenly cracked open under their own weight. This inner unraveling was not a mistake. It was the universe preparing your system to hold a finer frequency. The old matrix of your life was built on unconscious agreements, inherited patterns, emotional survival tactics, and social expectations. These structures cannot remain intact when someone is being prepared to stand conscious during a transition. So the universe began loosening them long before the shift reached your outer reality. At first, it felt like something was missing or breaking. You may have felt confused by the heaviness of your emotions or the sharpness of your intuition. You may have questioned why you were losing interest in things that once gave you pleasure or security. But this was not a loss of self. It was the emergence of a truer version of you. Your soul was beginning to rise above the density you had normalized for years. The universe needed you awake early so that this refinement could happen in stages. If all these internal changes arrived at the same time, the shock would have overwhelmed your system. Instead, it awakened you gradually through intuition, through restlessness, through the feeling that there was something more than the life you were living. And because you listened even when you did not understand, the universe could guide you step by step beyond the limits of your old identity. You may have noticed your sensitivity increasing, your empathy growing sharper, your ability to detect false intentions or artificial dynamics becoming almost instantaneous. These were not random developments. They were upgrades. Your senses were expanding, so you would be able to feel the transition before the world sees it. Your intuition was strengthening so you could navigate the shift with clarity rather than fear. Every uncomfortable moment, every emotional wave, every strange intuitive insight was part of the preparation. You are not becoming more fragile. You are becoming more finely tuned. The universe could not wait until after the transition to awaken you, because by then it would be too late for you to play the role your frequency is meant to play. You needed time to dissolve what was false inside you, so that when the collective field shifts, you will stand in clarity rather than confusion. Your awakening was not an accident. It was an initiation. As your awakening deepened, you began to notice something else shifting beneath the surface of your life. Subtle patterns that once seemed meaningless started aligning with uncanny precision. Small signs appeared repeatedly, as if reality itself was speaking to you. A phrase you needed to hear surfaced in a conversation with a stranger. An intuition you ignored revealed itself hours later as undeniable truth. People drifted away at the exact moment your energy no longer resonated with theirs. Opportunities dissolved or emerged with a speed that defied logic. These were not coincidences. They were the early movements of the universe, preparing you for the transition. When someone awakens before a collective shift, the universe begins synchronizing their life to match the higher trajectory they are rising into. Your frequency started changing, and the external world responded by rearranging itself around your new state of being. You may not have fully understood what was happening, but you felt the pull. You sensed that certain things were ending, not because they were wrong, but because they belonged to a version of you that no longer existed. Your relationships began revealing the truth of their energetic foundation. Your environments began exposing the ways they limited or drained you. Your thoughts began flowing from a deeper place, carrying a clarity that surprised you. All of these shifts were the universe aligning your life to prepare you for what is approaching. It needed you awake early because someone who remains asleep cannot endure the dismantling of the old energetic architecture without fear. But you being awake ahead of the transition means you can move through the changes with understanding rather than resistance. It means you can recognize the signs for what they truly are, adjustments rather than losses. It means you can see beyond the surface and sense the deeper intelligence guiding every shift. This phase of your awakening marked the moment when the universe began weaving your path with more deliberate precision. You may have noticed your intuition calling you toward new directions, even without evidence. You may have felt an inner knowing that certain timelines were complete, even if you had not yet taken action. You may have sensed yourself stepping out of one version of reality without fully stepping into another. This in-between space is sacred. It is the passage that appears only for those who awaken before the collective begins to feel the shift. The universe needed you here so you could anchor clarity while the old system weakens. Your early awakening was not a disruption. It was synchronization. You were aligned to this moment long before your conscious mind could understand it. And now the signs around you are becoming more frequent because the transition is no longer conceptual. It is beginning. As the signs intensified, you likely felt a strange mixture of expansion and disorientation. Part of you felt more awake than ever, while another part struggled to navigate the dissolving structure of your old life. This duality is natural when someone awakens before a major energetic transition. You began seeing through the illusions that once shaped your decisions. You stopped resonating with superficial goals or identities. You felt a growing distance between who you were taught to be and who you were becoming. And although this distance felt uncomfortable, it was a necessary phase. The old system inside you had to lose its grip so you could rise beyond it. The universe needed you awake early so this dismantling could happen gradually rather than all at once. If everything collapsed at the same time, your emotional body would not have had the capacity to hold the shift. Instead, your awakening unfolded in layers. First came the restlessness, a quiet inner knowing that something was no longer aligned. Then came the emotional disconnection from habits, people, and environments that once gave you stability. After that came the intuitive clarity, the ability to sense truth beneath appearances. And finally came the energetic release, the shedding of beliefs and expectations that were tied to your past identity. These stages may have felt chaotic, but each one was a preparation. The universe softened your attachment to the old, so that when the transition arrives, you would not cling to what is meant to dissolve. This stage is often misunderstood because it feels like things are falling apart. But nothing is collapsing. Everything is repositioning itself. The discomfort you felt was not a sign of failure, but evidence that your energy had outgrown its previous shape. You were shedding an identity that could not follow you into the new field. And although you may have resisted certain changes at first, your soul knew they were necessary. When the old identity begins dissolving, a new sense of self slowly emerges. You start seeing yourself with a clarity you could not access before. You begin trusting your inner voice more than the noise around you. You become less reactive and more observant. You no longer chase validation and instead move toward alignment. These are not personality changes. They are signs that your consciousness is stabilizing for the transition. You are becoming the version of yourself that was meant to stand awake, while the collective begins to feel the shift. Your awakening ahead of time has given you the advantage of clarity. And now the universe can begin revealing the next layer of your role in the unfolding transition. There comes a moment in every early awakening when the individual begins to sense a deeper purpose behind their timing. You may have noticed this recently, a subtle but persistent feeling that your awakening was not just for your personal healing or growth, but for something larger unfolding around you. This inner suspicion is correct. When the universe awakens someone before an energetic transition, it is because that person is meant to hold a stabilizing frequency within the collective field. You may not think of yourself as someone who influences the world around you, but energetically you do. Every awakened individual becomes like an antenna capable of transmitting coherence into the environment. Your clarity ripples outward. Your inner alignment creates space for others to find their own. Your presence itself becomes a point of resonance that softens the transition for those who are still asleep. This does not mean you are responsible for saving anyone or guiding anyone. It simply means your energy carries a stabilizing effect because you awakened early enough to integrate truths that others have not yet touched. When the collective field begins to shift, those who awaken early act as the first stabilizers. They sense the transition before it becomes visible. They anchor into truth before the old illusions collapse. They become familiar with the new frequency before the rest of humanity begins to feel its gravitational pull. You may already be experiencing this in subtle ways. People may open up to you unexpectedly, sensing your grounded presence. Friends or loved ones may seek your perspective during moments of confusion, even if they never did before. You may notice that simply being near someone calms them or helps them reflect more clearly. These are not personality traits. They are energetic functions. The universe needed you awake early so that your frequency could be available when the collective begins to destabilize. It needed someone who could see beyond the dissolving structures without falling into fear. Someone who could sense what is emerging even if they cannot explain it logically. someone who could hold stillness in a world that is about to become louder with energetic noise. Your awakening is not a personal achievement. It is a cosmic alignment. The timing was intentional. The transitions occurring within you mirror the transitions forming in the collective psyche. And because you have already walked through the early phases of dissolution, you will recognize the signs when the world enters the same process. You will understand what is happening not with your mind, but with your entire being. Your early awakening gives you the clarity needed to navigate the transition with ease, while others will feel overwhelmed by sensations they cannot name. You are not above anyone. You are simply ahead in the sequence. And that positioning is how you assist the field simply by existing in your awakened state. As the transition draws closer, this role will become clearer. Your presence is needed for what is coming. As the universe prepares you for the transition, your consciousness begins to expand in ways that change the very way you perceive reality. You may feel yourself accessing a deeper intelligence that does not come from the mind, but from something more ancient and intuitive within you. This expanded consciousness is not about gathering information. It is about attuning to the underlying patterns that govern reality. You may find yourself understanding situations instantly without analysis. You may sense intentions behind words before they are spoken. You may feel energy shifting in a room the moment you walk in. These are not random sensitivities. They are the activation of your higher awareness. When the universe awakens someone early, it enhances their perception so they can navigate the transition without confusion. The old structures of perception are not sufficient for what is coming. They rely on logic and linearity, both of which collapse when the field begins shifting. The new consciousness you are embodying perceives reality through resonance, intuition, and emotional intelligence. You are beginning to feel truths rather than think them. You are beginning to sense direction rather than plan it. You are beginning to recognize energetic signatures rather than analyze surface appearances. This heightened awareness is proof that your awakening is entering a new phase. It is also a sign that the transition is nearing. The more expanded your awareness becomes, the more the old world feels too small for you. You may feel yourself outgrowing conversations that focus on fear or drama. You may notice that your tolerance for artificial interactions has diminished. You may find yourself gravitating towards solitude, not because you are isolating, but because your inner world is becoming richer and more meaningful than external noise. This is not withdrawal. It is recalibration. As your consciousness expands, your energetic field becomes more selective about what it allows in. This selectivity is not judgment. It is protection. The universe needed you awake early so that by the time the collective field begins shifting, you would already be stable in this expanded perception. People who awaken during the transition will feel overwhelmed by the influx of new awareness. You, on the other hand, will feel prepared because you have already moved through the initial stages. You will not fear the changes because you recognize them as the same ones you have already lived through internally. Your expanded awareness allows you to move through the transition with grace, while others may struggle to find their center. And as the transition unfolds, this awareness will not only guide you, it will guide those who unconsciously attune to your presence. Without speaking a word, your energy will serve as a lighthouse in a field that is becoming unsteady. This is why the universe awakened you before the transition. Your clarity will matter in ways you do not yet fully understand. As your awareness expands, something even more profound begins to happen within you. The old version of yourself, the one shaped by survival, conditioning, and unconscious repetition, begins to dissolve. This dissolution is quiet. It does not announce itself dramatically. It unfolds in small moments that slowly accumulate, until one day you realize you no longer respond the way you used to. The triggers that once controlled you lose their strength. The roles you once played feel uncomfortable. The masks you wore for acceptance begin slipping off on their own. You may wake up one morning and feel a soft but unmistakable distance between who you are now and who you used to be. This distance is not disorientation, it is liberation. The universe needed you awake before the transition, so you could shed the outdated self without rushing. Who you were could not carry the frequency required for the new phase you are stepping into. The old self was built from memories that no longer resonate with your expanded awareness. It was constructed around fears that you have outgrown and identities that were formed through unconscious adaptation. When your consciousness expands, the scaffolding of the old self begins to collapse naturally. You no longer resonate with the emotional patterns that sustained that version of you. You no longer find comfort in the familiar cycles that once defined your behavior. You feel an inner pull toward authenticity, even when it disrupts the stability of the old identity. This process can be painful because you are not just releasing habits. You are releasing entire energetic patterns that once kept you safe. But safety built from limitation cannot accompany you into a higher state of being. The universe needed you awake early, so this inner shedding could unfold gradually with time for integration. If everything fell away at once, the emotional shock could destabilize your awakening. Instead, the dissolution occurs layer by layer, leaving space for each truth to land. You may notice that certain memories no longer carry emotional weight. Certain desires suddenly feel foreign. Certain attachments weaken without effort. These are signs that the oldest structures within you are dissolving. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the version of yourself that could not hold the frequency of your awakening. The real you is emerging from beneath every layer that once hid it. As this deeper self rises, you begin making choices differently. You begin feeling differently. You begin speaking differently. You begin trusting yourself in ways you never imagined possible. This is not transformation. It is revelation. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you were before the world taught you to be small. And as this revelation strengthens, you begin stepping into the vibrational identity required for the transition. You are entering the phase where your energy becomes aligned with the truth of who you are. And once that alignment anchors, the shift becomes inevitable. As the old self dissolves and the true self emerges, your sensitivity to the collective field increases. You begin sensing something moving beneath the surface of the world, something subtle yet unmistakable. This is the beginning of the collective transition. The shift does not start with external events. It starts in the field of consciousness that all beings share. You may feel this as a heaviness in the air, a restlessness you cannot explain, a sense that something large is reorganizing itself. You may feel waves of energy that seem to come from nowhere. You may have moments of clarity followed by moments of deep reflection, as if the world is pausing around you. These sensations are not personal. They are collective. The universe needed you awake early so that you could feel the transition before it becomes visible. While others may interpret the rising tension or confusion as personal crisis, you will perceive them as energetic indicators. You will recognize the patterns because you lived through them internally before the world entered the same phase. Just as your old self dissolved, the old collective paradigm is beginning to unravel. Outdated systems built on fear and division are weakening. The structures that once shaped collective identity are losing influence. People who were deeply attached to the old matrix may feel destabilized as the energetic foundation beneath them shifts. But because you awakened ahead of this moment, you can sense the deeper movement beneath the surface. You may notice people around you questioning their lives in ways they never did before. You may see sudden emotional releases, spikes in intuition, or shifts in values happening in people who were once deeply asleep. You may witness a global restlessness that mirrors the internal restlessness you felt early in your awakening. These are signs that the collective field is entering the same dismantling phase you have already lived through. And your early awakening allows you to navigate this moment with clarity instead of fear. You understand that the dissolution is not the end. It is preparation. You recognize the tension as the first movement of a new frequency. You feel the transition not as a threat, but as a shift into a more aligned state of being. The universe awakened you early because someone who has already walked through the fire can remain centered while others begin entering it. Your role is not to intervene or to fix anything. It is to stay grounded, to hold clarity, to embody the frequency that others will unconsciously attune to. As the collective transition deepens, your stability becomes a quiet beacon for those who cannot see the path ahead. You are not here to create the transition. You are here to remain awake while it unfolds. And the universe positioned you perfectly for this moment. As the collective field begins shifting, you will notice something awakening within you that feels both familiar and entirely new. It is a deeper sense of purpose that you cannot put into words. Not a mission based on pressure or responsibility, but an inner knowing that your presence during this transition matters. This is not ego speaking. It is resonance. When someone awakens before the transition, their energy becomes aligned with the frequency of coherence. And coherence is contagious. You may not realize it, but your clarity influences the people around you even when you stay silent. Your groundedness offers energetic stability to those who feel disoriented. Your emotional neutrality becomes a mirror that helps others find their center. Your presence itself becomes a signal in the field. This is why the universe needed you awake before the transition. The field is shifting from a frequency dominated by unconscious survival patterns into one shaped by awareness and alignment. During this shift, the collective consciousness passes through a period of instability. Old paradigms dissolve. New insights surface. The world is moving through a liminal corridor where the old no longer holds. Yet the new has not fully crystallized. Those who awaken inside this corridor often feel overwhelmed because they cannot name what is happening within them. But you awakened early enough to recognize the architecture of the shift. You read the collapse of old structures as preparation. You feel the discomfort as recalibration. You see emerging patterns not as chaos, but as intelligent rearrangement. Like a hidden hand retuning the strings of reality until the whole instrument returns to pitch. In this moment, your presence creates anchoring points in the energetic field. These anchors are not roles you perform. They are the natural consequence of coherence. When your inner frequency stabilizes, it becomes a tuning fork for the space around you. You begin to notice subtle shifts in how people meet you. Conversations turn more honest. Defenses soften. People feel safer being vulnerable in your orbit because your field is not demanding a performance. You sense the emotional truth behind words, even when it remains unspoken, as if you can hear the quiet signal beneath the noise. You feel pulled toward behaviors that are more compassionate, more grounded,